Magic in the Morning is Maroon 5, and it's now 8:36. It's our 10th day of June, first double-digit day of the month. Hard to believe it, but we're also a day closer to summer. Mike Barrett in for an installment of Good Policies with Barrett Insurance Agency. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. It's good to know summer's still in the forecast when I assumed it. I thought we already had it. I thought we had that 1 or 2 days. Hope you enjoyed it. Now back to misery.
Yeah,
rain.
A couple of days in the 90s was something else.
Yeah.
Hey, we had a great chat last week, and I think we're going to plan on extending on that there. But let's start things off here. We're running out of time for our first annual event for our Northeast Kingdom Cancer Action Network. And this is first ever, and I don't think I asked you, is this in lieu of the Rail Trail and Ale?
Believe it or not in lieu of. This is a new event that we were thinking about doing a golf scramble at some point. We just weren't sure when. And then we had a volunteer who said, I'll do it now. And so they started really doing the legwork for us and made it happen a lot quicker than we anticipated. And we're excited about it. So to get the Rail Trail back, we're looking to do, really benchmark events, Jeff, right? So, we have some that we will no longer do, like the car show. We loved doing that, but this replaces the car show, if you want to talk about a replacement.
All right, so it is going to be held at the Orleans Country Club coming up on the 26th, and all of the proceeds will go to the Northeast Kingdom Cancer Action Network, right?
Yeah. So we're looking to have 30 teams, 4 members per team. I think there'll be food at the end. It sounds like a really good time. How can it go wrong? It's a Thursday, so you're cutting out of work and you're golfing for a cause. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. No bad days on the golf course, right?
Well, don't they say a bad day of fishing is better than a good day at work? So
absolutely.
A bad day on the golf course, same thing. We'll talk more about it,
Plus,
folks.
you'll get your steps in.
Yes, you will. We've shared this to our Facebook page. You can also go to nekcan.org. You can also follow them on Facebook. But again, Thursday the 26th. So last week we had a first of, I think, was what we were talking about, why you should or why you shouldn't. And I think we determined why you shouldn't take your kids off from your insurance policies when they head off to school. What else have you got?
Yeah, so I thought that was a good prelude to this part of the conversation, right? So we talked about, when your kids graduate high school, do you remove them from your auto insurance? No. Unless they have a vehicle with them at a school in a state that maybe your insurance company doesn't like, really should just keep them on. Even if they don't have a car, just keep them on. Just put them over 100 miles away from home if they are beyond the borders of Vermont and New Hampshire. So that's a good thing. But there's also the other side of that coin. How long is too long, right? So there does come a point where it's time to remove the youngsters from the auto policies. So let's say that they've gone to college, they've graduated college, and now they're on year 3 of living in Boston or Hartford or New York. Maybe they have a family vehicle with them. Now you're really at a point, you're at a crossroads, right? I mean, you really shouldn't be doing that. Company finds out about it, and typically the way they find out about it is when a claim happens. They then go, well, this person has a 26-year-old child living in a state far, far away, far away, and we're going to pay this claim, but they got to figure out what they're doing, or we will have to non-renew this policy. So it becomes a very drastic step. So it's important to have them on the policy, but take them off when it's appropriate. Now, the same could be said for somebody who doesn't leave the area, right? Say they go to college, they come back, and now they moved and they're living somewhere. The second they're not in your house, the second they're not a dependent, they really should be off your policy.
So are you saying that 30-something living in the basement?
Yes. I'm also saying 40-something who is living in the basement should probably, and I get it, right? So when you look at an auto policy, there is a benefit to having more than one vehicle on a policy, right? Because the companies give multi-vehicle discounts, and they're pretty significant. You can see a $200 savings or more, or in that roundabout number on each vehicle with that discount. So you start removing that discount, now you're paying a couple $100 more. So I get it. But you don't want to test the limitations and exclusions afforded to you on a policy. So make sure that you are doing it the best you can and don't stay on too long.
Well, we've heard in the past from, like some of the large national companies that, there's forgiveness for first-time claims and things along that nature. But you talked about the dollar savings possible while you have multiple vehicles. But if somebody is a repeat claimer, that's going to cause everybody to go up, right?
Absolutely. So let's say you have somebody who is accident prone or violation prone. Just the nature of the beast. Some people are just naturals at it, and it's not necessarily it's just the way it is, right? But that's going to adversely impact everybody that's on that policy. And especially if they're not in the household, they really shouldn't be on it. So we talked about last week where the policy defines dependents and those who are insured by the policy as relative household members, right? So they're a household member. If they're living in the basement, yeah, they're still technically a household member, so maybe you can push that envelope a little bit. But then we go to another side where we talk about insurable interest. Insurable interest is a very important part of the insurance process. Insurable interest is connecting the line from the asset, the property, the exposure, to the person who owns it. So if mom and dad upstairs don't own your vehicle, do you really want a claim to happen and mom and dad have the payment made in their name and you are the 40-year-old downstairs or 30-year-old downstairs? And now what if you're in a tiff with your mom and dad? Are you going to get your payment? So insurable interest is incredibly important because you want to make sure you're properly protected for a loss, whether it be a property loss or a liability exposure.
Okay, so now let's shift gears then, because this is a can of worms, and if folks have questions, no, dead serious, you'll give them the number afterwards. But we also brought up in our conversation last week the benefits and absolute importance if your student is renting an apartment while they're at school, as opposed to being in a dormitory, the importance of renter's insurance.
It's really important. You know, technically, yes, they still could have some level of extension to some degree, but at that point, they're really on their own. And I got to tell you, Jeff, for the cost of a renter's insurance policy, it makes absolute sense to do it. Even if you think you have some cover somewhere else, right? In a dormitory, really, again, that's part of the college experience. Tuition, you know, your extension is really going to be there pretty well. But if you're off premises and renting, you want to make sure you're protected for your liability exposures to the landlord and the property that you're in. You also want to make sure you have loss of rent coverage if there's a loss in that building that prevents you from being there. It can help put you up elsewhere temporarily, or at least until you can find the new place.
So what if Joey or Johnny have a roommate or multiple roommates? Do they all have a separate?
They could all have a separate, without a doubt. Because again, Jeff, we're talking about insurable interest, right? So we're talking about if you're renting with John and there's a loss and John has renter's insurance and you don't, and you lost your couch, John's not paying for that. John doesn't care about your couch. So, you know, and we're talking, if you go for a real basic and that at that young of an age, what do you truly have for assets, right? Not a lot. Even on a replacement cost perspective, because a lot of people go, oh, my stuff's not worth anything. Well, we're not looking to get it back from Montclair or from the rummage sale you got it or the side of the road. We're going to replace it. But, you know, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $100 a year, can't go wrong with that.
Well, and that $10,000, $20,000 accumulates quite fast in today's
it
economy.
Does. And I will say the average renter's policy does range from like $125 to $250 a year. So it's really not a bad deal.
Yeah, be covered, whether it's on the road or in your home. So tell them how to get in touch with you.
It's one less cup of Starbucks coffee a month. Give us a call, 748-5224. You can find us online, thebarrettagency.com, Google, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Just look for Barrett Insurance Agency. And we're physically located on Portland Street. I think I missed that. So
that's okay. Now they know.
Now they know. Now I know, because that's where I have to go.
Most people do know. Yeah. All right, good policies every Tuesday at 8:35. We're headed up to our hometown minute with Beans Homes. And up next, it's almost Monday on Magic.